Now, some of you may not be aware of this, but The Ultimate Fighter is still going on. I know, I was shocked as well, but over the past 5 years, the UFC have continued to make The Ultimate Fighter and have continued to do that show with a bunch of coaches going against each other. Now, I'm not going to blame you for not really hearing about it over the past 5 years, because basically here is the situation. The Ultimate Fighter used to be a really good show that the UFC used to do, where they would get two really interesting personalities in the UFC, and they would have a really big matchup in the UFC, and they would take both of the fighters in that matchup that probably had a bit of a beef against each other as well, and they'd put them on the Ultimate Fighter, and they'd have them go against each other as coaches of the show. That's what they used to do, and it used to be a really good show, but nowadays, you can't have a successful show that's entertaining to watch. What they've done now is they've found the two most boring personalities in the UFC, potentially, okay, at the time that they're about to do the Ultimate Fighter season, and they've put them as coaches on the show. Now, these fighters don't have to have a beef against each other in any way whatsoever. They don't have to be big-name fighters at all. They just put them on the show as coaches against each other, and they let the ratings plummet every single year, okay? And now they do this over and over again. They had Volkanovski versus Ortega, which was a dead season. They had Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum, which was a dead season. They even had like Eddie Alvarez versus Justin Gaethje, which was a dead season. Nunes versus Pena. I have this conversation every single year that the Ultimate Fighter is about to be started again, and I start talking about all these great matchups. But I'm telling you, this year, please UFC, make it Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira, the rematch, as coaches of the Ultimate Fighter. I'm going to give you my reasons why I think it should be the Ultimate Fighter Season 32. Okay? Now, I know this goes against what you're trying to do to the Ultimate Fighter, which is to sink the ratings so low that the people that make the show refuse to do it anymore because they're losing so much money. But hear me out. I know you want to kill the show dead, and you want to ruin it for everyone. I know you do. But it's actually a really good idea of a show, and it can be done well if you care about it and want it to be done well. Israel Adesanya is going to need some time off. He just got TKO'd, and he had a very busy, very, very busy 2022. He fought 3 times in 2022. Okay? He also, in his own words, whether you believe them or not, had an injury that he came into the Alex Pereira fight with. Now, if we're not going to get any excuses whatsoever, I'd like to make sure that Israel Adesanya has no injuries heading into a rematch against Alex Pereira for the Middleweight World Championship. I'll tell you something about Alex Pereira as well. He has an injury. He was just on Ariel Helwani's MMA Hour in studio, and he showed his finger on the show, and it is swollen up beyond belief. Okay? And he said he's really hurt his front knuckle on his finger, and it's really badly swollen up, and he might need to do a bit of surgery to get rid of some of the swelling. Okay? So, seeing as both of them need time off, and in all honesty, the middleweight division in the championship conversation needs a little bit of time off as well, how about we put them on the Ultimate Fighter against each other? It has all of the storyline, okay? I know that they can't really speak English to each other or anything like that, but just having Alex Pereira as a coach on the Ultimate Fighter and seeing what he's like behind the scenes. You can even have Glover in as a guest coach as well, because, you know, Glover's not fighting for the belt now. They're doing Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz. Glover's going to have a little bit of spare time as well, so you can have Glover as like a guest coach on the show to help on Team Pereira and stuff like that, and then you'll have Israel Adesanya as well, and maybe on one episode you can bring Alexander Volkanovski in or something like that, and maybe on another episode you can bring someone else in from CKB to make a bit of an appearance. There are so many ways you can go about doing this show, and I know that neither of them are going to be able to speak English to each other. Obviously Adesanya speaks English, but the energy between them, let's milk this, okay? There's an energy between them. There's a rivalry between them. And it could end up there being some kind of conversation that they have with each other where things get a little bit violent. Things get a little bit pushy and shovey. And that's what you need on the Ultimate Fighter. Every single Ultimate Fighter season has a moment in the season where everyone's like, hey, and everyone's pushing at each other, not really going to do anything. And we need one of those moments between Pereira and his team and Adesanya and his team to really stoke up the fire for this rivalry. And I think it's a perfect time to do it because they both need time off. They do. And Ultimate Fighter, usually the last season started at the start of May. So how about International Fight Week in July? Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 2 as the main event. Okay? Pereira's got to get surgery on his finger. And he would like some time also to develop his skills because he got to the title so quickly in his UFC career. You've also got Israel Adesanya, who no doubt wants to heal up from some injuries that he claims he has that we have no evidence of. He also got TKO'd, and he's been incredibly active, so he's going to need a little bit of time off as well. Let's do this. Let's do it. And let's do some good, talented fighters on the show as well. Okay? You can start setting it up now. Like, start scouting the regional scene in perhaps Australia and New Zealand, and also Brazil. And let's do a Oceania versus South America show of The Ultimate Fighter between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. Please. Because I know what's really going to happen. You're not going to listen to this video. And you're going to make it Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot. I know you're going to. Why do you have to kill this show dead? It's such a fun show. People will watch it if you give them a reason to watch it. We don't want to be like, Ortega left a snake in Volk's fucking changing room. So funny. It's not funny. It's making it a dead show. God. I swear, like, this is the only title fight you can do on The Ultimate Fighter. They ain't affording McGregor's time to be a coach on the show again. Okay? But how about you say this? Here you go. Israel Adesanya, his 500k. Alex Pereira, his 400, 300k, whatever. He's worth a little bit less of his time. Do The Ultimate Fighter. I honestly believe Israel Adesanya is one of those types of guys, just based on the way he talks about the sport and martial arts in general. He'd like the experience of even being on The Ultimate Fighter. So let's do it. Let's build up this rematch. This should be one of the biggest fights in middleweight history. And I know that people said that about the first fight that they had, but the fact is it wasn't. You know? The hype wasn't really there because a lot of the casuals expected Adesanya to win. And it was there, don't get me wrong. It was more important than like an Israel Adesanya Jared Cannonier fight. But we can make this like a really massive matchup on International Fight Week and sell like 800,000 pay-per-view buys. If you put some value behind it and build up the suspense. And while we have some other big fights going on, have The Ultimate Fighter in the background. Brazil or South America versus Oceania. Get all the best regional fighters from both of those areas. See what weight divisions are the most dense for talent. And put those weight divisions on The Ultimate Fighter against each other. Let's make this a good show. Please. Make this a good show. I really want to watch The Ultimate Fighter and enjoy myself again. And I want to be able to, you know what I want as a content creator as well, from a content creator side? As a fan, I just want The Ultimate Fighter to watch. Because it's a good show if you put two good coaches on there. I want, as a content creator, something happening in every episode that I can make a video about. Or something happening one every couple of episodes that I can make a video about. And react to. Like a little bit of a back and forth between them. You know what I mean? A little bit of something exposed from one of the camps and they're both going back and forth and we get an insight on the training and stuff like that. I want some kind of news to come out of The Ultimate Fighter other than, Volkanovski put clocks in Brian Ortega's locker room because he always shows up late. It's just not funny. It's not funny and it never was funny. And it killed the show. Let's make Whittaker and Gastelum race each other. Who's going to win? The in-shape athlete Whittaker or the fat sack of shit Gastelum? Let's find out in today's episode, guys. Gastelum almost couldn't complete the race. He nearly died of exhaustion. That's not a joke. That's genuinely true. I actually even forgot about that until I had to find an example in my head just then. Gastelum genuinely nearly passed out doing a race that they had. He was that out of shape. And that fight never even ended up happening, so he never got the payoff. Well, never ended up happening for the belt. It happened, of course, Gastelum taking a fight on short notice against Whittaker. But either way, you know what I'm saying. The Ultimate Fighter Season 32. We need it to be a big one. Please make it a big one. It's just boring now. Or Season 31, whatever this is going to be. I don't even know, but let's make a good Ultimate Fighter. Because I was thinking, like, who else could be on the Ultimate Fighter? It's not going to be Chimaev versus Covington. The Ultimate Fighter starts in May. They're probably going to fight each other in March. It can't be Usman versus Edwards. They're going to fight in March as well. You know what I mean? These are the guys who are on schedule to where they could actually make this happen. Even if they wanted to start it in April and do the fight in June, so we don't have to wait until July, I don't mind that either. I just think it would be really good on International Fight Week to have this massive blockbuster fight in the middleweight division. You know? It's just a great way to get invested for a fight like this. I don't want this fight to be, oh, it's the main event in April, everyone. And then we're all looking forward to March in the UK and also with Jones versus Ngannou. And then we get like 3 weeks of build-up to the Adesanya Pereira rematch super fight. Like, that shouldn't be the situation. We should have like a long 10-week period of like build-up. Reminder every week. This fight's going on, by the way. And it's heating up and they're pushing each other on the Ultimate Fighter. And there's some awkward moments between them in the corridors of the Ultimate Fighter. And Adesanya's getting a bit twitchy around Alex Pereira. He's getting annoyed, frustrated with Alex Pereira just staring him down in some episodes. Like, there should be those moments. We need this. Please, we need this. I said last season it should have been Covington versus Masvidal. You rushed it and did it in March. And to be fair, the Covington-Masvidal build-up didn't feel that good. It felt empty. It should have been a massive heated build-up, and it wasn't. We got one press conference of them shouting over each other like children, and then the fight happened and Covington dominated him. It was nothing. Now that's in the past. Let's make the most out of these moments while we have them. God. Volk. The other options that there are to do the Khabib versus Ferguson thing, which now has lost its touch a bit, but they could still do it and do like a... Someone said in my chat the other day they could do a Khabib Ferguson TUF and have like a power slap match at the end of it, but I like the fact that they can fight at the end. So like let's move away from the Khabib Ferguson idea. Let's do Adesanya Pereira, because other than that, it's what? If Volkanovski loses to Makhachev, they're going to do Volkanovski versus... If Rodriguez beats Josh Emmett, I don't want to see Volkanovski versus Rodriguez. That ain't a cool TUF episode. That's not good. You know what I mean? I don't want to see that. I want to see the intricacies of like a Eugene Behrman training camp on The Ultimate Fighter. You know, and they bring in Brad Riddell as a striking helper on the show, and he can do well because he's now a full-time coach. He can do well and get his name out there as a coach. You know, and then Allberg makes an appearance on the show, and Dan Hooker comes in for a quick one-to-one word with some of the lightweight competitors on the show. Like, we can do this as a great show. Maybe there's flyweights on the show and they bring in Kai Kara France. We can make this work for all people involved. Adesanya, I know you don't like me, of course you don't. If you've seen any of my videos, you don't, because I'm honest about you. But you've got to agree. Let's do this. Adesanya Pereira too. Make it happen. There's nothing else they can do. There's some interesting contender matchups maybe they could put on the show, but I ain't interested in them. What, Poirier Dariush? No. Maybe. But this is also something that's going to delay things massively. They could do Aljo versus Cejudo, but I don't want to wait for that until June, July of next year. I want that to happen in like April at latest. You know, even like I was thinking, you know, maybe Sean O'Malley, Marlon Vera too. That would be a really good one if they could have Sean O'Malley on TUF. But that would be too long of a wait for them. This just happened. The card just happened. UFC 281 just happened. They're both injured in some way or like recovering from a TKO in Adesanya's case as well. Let's give it some time and let the division breathe underneath it, because we need to kill some time. And killing time for no reason is bad. You don't want to just delay it till July and not say why. If you give us a reason to be okay with the delay, like the Ultimate Fighter between them, then it would be good. Then it would be really good. And then we can have Whittaker fight another contender in the meantime. which I'm sure Whittaker will be okay with because he's literally just like, oh, can I get a title shot, mate? Shut up, Whittaker. You're fighting Andre Muniz. You know what I mean? Like, it's just Whittaker gets no rest in that division. He's just fighting contender after contender. Either way, we need the division to breathe. Because people are already talking about, you know, like, well, if Strickland beats Cannonier. No! Not if Strickland number 7 beats number 3 Cannonier. I want like an undeniable top contender. Whether it's Whittaker on a 3-fight win streak after beating Paulo Costa and then beating someone else, that can be that. That can be Whittaker. Maybe Pereira beats Adesanya in the rematch and we do that matchup. Pereira versus Whittaker, or even Adesanya Whittaker 3, which would only really make sense if Whittaker had another 2 wins. Paulo Costa then someone else. But I want like a Darren Till to make it back to the top, or a Dricus du Plessis, who I believe is going to beat Darren Till. Or a Dricus du Plessis to make it to the top of the middleweight division in the meantime. And Andre Muniz to make it to the top of the middleweight division in the meantime with 2 more wins. You know? I don't want to see all this other stuff. Maybe if Roman Dolidze gets the jump on Jack Hermansson, we can do him versus Derek Brunson, and then he's looking for a top contender matchup. We need to create some fresh fights. And we need to kill some time to do it. So this is the time to do it. I told you this when I said the UFC really want Pereira to beat Adesanya so they can buy some time in the middleweight division. Light heavyweight's even more of a mess. Because Yuri's got to get a title shot when he comes back. Glover's got to get a title shot, I suppose, against the winner of Blachowicz versus Ankalaev, especially if it's Blachowicz, because Glover beat Blachowicz for the belt, so you kind of got to give him a title shot that way. Like, there's so much going on at light heavyweight. Let's focus on middleweight. We got loads of going on at welterweight as well. Covington Chimaev, winner of that's got to get a title shot. If Bilal wins another fight, he's got to get a title shot. Burns is now fighting Magny. Masvidal's coming back soon. Wonderboy versus Thompson's coming up. Wonderboy versus Holland is coming up soon. Jeff Neal, Shavkat Rakhmonov. There's so many things going on, and we've also got the trilogy to do in the championship scenario. Too much. Focus on middleweight, and right now we need to kill some time at the top. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you agree, and start the call for this. Adesanya Pereira 2 Ultimate Fighter. Get them to respond to this, okay? Ariel Helwani, if you have another one of them on your show, if Adesanya comes back on the show, mention this idea to him. Full Violence, post the idea for this. Because otherwise, it's Shevchenko versus Fiorot. It's Zhang Namajunas 3 on The Ultimate Fighter. I ain't trying to watch that shit. Give me Adesanya Pereira 2. See you later. Goodbye.